Who's in the $1,000,000 mailbox? One guess who? Who'd never ever start an argument? Who'd never show a bit of temperament? Who's never wrong but always right? Who'd never dream of starting a fight? Who's on your screen with the comic book scene? No one but Dan Shaheen.
Hey, good morning. What's going on here? The Danger Room. Doing a Danger Room stream. This is a little bit different. This is going to be something I've been wanting to try. Don't have any guests. It's just me. I can tell this is not bringing a swarm of enthusiasm because nobody's watching yet. Oh, well, I'm just going to keep going. This is for me a little more maybe than it is for everybody else. I don't know. So today I'm going to talk about all kinds of stuff, man. The idea behind this show is manifold. So the Danger Room is something that I want to try. Well, first of all, Danger Room is the software that I've written that you'll see me use on this show from time to time to display graphics and stuff. Takes a lot of time. I write that software myself. I constantly messing with it, adding new graphics and all kinds of stuff. So that's fun. I want a place where I can sort of experiment live. I've been doing that on Fridays on Serious Star Trek. I thank a lot of you guys that watch that. And that's been a lot of fun for me on the technical side. Like I like to mess around with all the backgrounds and the foregrounds and the special effects and create bumpers and create just goofy stuff. I do that stuff all the time and I want to share it with you. But also I want to just do some streaming. I want to just do some talking about stuff that's a little less structured, a little more off the cuff, I guess. And we'll be talking about, but still stuff that I've been looking at. I look at research stuff all week and I see crazy stuff and I go like, I would love to talk about this on my show. But then it's tough to shoehorn it in with a guest, right? So it's just going to be me today. Today, we're going to go into the Danger Room and we're going to talk about a little bit anyway about Garfield. Yeah, Garfield. So Garfield, right? It's ubiquitous. We grew up with it. We loved it as kids. And you sort of grow up out of it and you're like, it's not very funny. It's very banal. Here's a typical Garfield strip right here. I think it's that very banality, if that's a word. I don't think it's banalness. Banality. Yeah, it's banality. It's that very banality that has seemed to inspire a whole subculture of Garfield weirdos. So today we'll talk about a few weird Garfield things like Garfield versus Garfield minus Garfield, rather, I should say. And we'll talk about the Reddit forum /r/Sorry John. I'm sorry, John. Really weird fan tribute stuff. And then we'll talk about Lasagna Cat. We'll come back to this strip a little bit later when we talk about Lasagna Cat. Okay, so first on my agenda, let's talk about Garfield minus Garfield. Okay, so Garfield minus Garfield. I'll bring it up for you folks. Hang on just a second. Is an excellent website and an excellent concept. And this is actually sanctioned by Jim Davis. Like Jim Davis gets a hoot out of this thing too. So let me see if I can pull this up. Yeah, Garfield minus Garfield. There we go. I got it. Okay. Yeah, I had it up here already. Great. Okay, let's share the screen. So Garfield minus Garfield is a very simple concept that takes Garfield. Thank you, Drunken Sailor. By the way, another part of this stream is the idea that I want to be a little bit more interactive with you folks. So feel free to comment and ask questions or whatever, and I'll try to get to them as I can. I want this just to sort of be a casual thing. So let's talk Garfield minus Garfield for a sec. So the idea is super simple. Take Garfield, remove Garfield. And let's just see what it says. Garfield minus Garfield is a site dedicated to removing Garfield from the Garfield comic strips in order to reveal the existential angst of a certain young Mr. John Arbuckle. It's a journey deep into the mind of an isolated young everyman as he fights a losing battle against loneliness and depression in a quiet American suburb. So this is like a common theme in the Garfield sort of parody universe. Ooh, yeah, much better. Is that John is just a sad loser, right? And so if you can imagine these strips with Garfield, and they're actually almost funnier without Garfield. If it's just a man alone, it's kind of like talking to himself. Let's go to the very first Garfield minus Garfield. Can we do that? Yeah, we can. So just sort of a weird, banality is indeed a word, and maybe that's what this show is all dedicated to. Anyway, these things are hilarious. I recommend you go through them. You can even buy the collected book with a foreword by Jim Davis, okay? And so this is where things start to get a little bit weirder. So this was weird, but this was embraced. It was embraced by people. I loved it at the time when it first came out. I don't even remember. I mean, it was well over a decade ago. Created by this guy, Dan Walsh. And you can find it at Garfield minus Garfield spelled out .net. Go check that out, and you can go through the whole thing. And the guy got a book deal, and actually, as I said, the sanction of Jim Davis himself, which is pretty amazing. That's pretty cool that Jim is a good sport about that kind of thing. But I wonder if he's as good a sport about I'm Sorry, John. So let me see if I can do this. Wait a minute. How do I do this? Share. Maybe I should just... Yeah, share my screen, share a window, which is this whole window. Yes, okay. I think, oh, Chrome doesn't want to let me do that. Okay, so we'll share a Chrome tab instead. Okay, so let's look at I'm Sorry, John instead. Okay, whoa, this is a Reddit forum. And here's the definition of the Reddit forum. Oh, let me add this to the stream here. Garfield has abandoned his limited form, and he, capital H, is beautiful. Surrender yourself to him and be saved. Here we celebrate our favorite cosmic entity with catitude. That sounds fun, right? Well, dude, if this little header up here is not a little like warning about what you're going to see, you're going to see some crazy stuff in here. Right now. Let me go back to the... Yeah, here we go. And you can see it's just a fan art community devoted to weird Garfield art. And man, there is a lot of this stuff, and it gets just weird in very religious and political ways, and highly worth looking at. People that like... They're fans of Garfield. I guess you could say they're fans of Garfield, but maybe not really. Maybe it's more, I don't know, the cultural zeitgeist that is Garfield. Just the sort of just flatness. Like, dude, if you read Garfield, you read every Garfield, you go back and read Garfield for years, you're lucky to get like a mild chuckle out of one or two strips. Those are kind of the ones that I like fondly remember as me liking Garfield in the future. Let me see if this is gonna work. Yeah, or when I was a kid, rather. Sorry. It is just full of some of the most gruesome, just weirdest, freaked out stuff. And when I went looking for Garfield art for the thumbnail, you might notice the weird 3D Garfield that I put on the thumbnail, and I found that on Sketchfab, by the way. There's a link in the description. But it's clear that Garfield has just taken this weird, grotesque turn. And I think in the public consciousness, I have not seen this one. Nice Star Trek Evil Garfield mashup. And it's every combination of dinosaur Garfield, saber-tooth tiger Garfield. This one's innocent enough, but there's just a sinister undertone to, I'm going to say, the vast majority. Nice little Heathcliff insert here. This stuff is great. I could go through this for for hours and hours. And I guess that's the idea, is that you should go check out reddit.com/r/I'm sorry John. Join the community. Take a look. What do you know? You might enjoy it. Okay. But now let's delve into something even weirder. And I have a feeling, chronologically, Lasagna Cat, which I'm about to show you, kind of came before I'm Sorry John, and might have been a big part of the inspiration for it. But let me just take a quick look again over at Lasagna Cat on YouTube. Okay, let me just show. Fun. What a fun page this is. Let me add it to the screen again. Yeah, what a fun page. You got to check out Lasagna Cat, right? Can we watch the first video? Let's do it.
I hate Mondays, but I love lasagna.
Hey, who ate all my lasagna?
Me.
Well, isn't that a hoot? And what happened is these guys, the first set of videos, of Lasagna Cat videos, were all dropped at the same time. There's, I think, 12 of them or 15 of them or something like that. And they just were all dropped in one day, and you could just sort of watch them. And each one is a more and more sort of bizarre recreation of a Garfield strip, but then also usually segues into some kind of parody, musical parodies. Let me show you one right now. Why not? Share a video file. Going to public domain. Oh no, streaming. Yeah, Lasagna Cat. Okay, and here I'll show you a real typical one.
You tricked me. There's nothing in this present.
You promised me you wouldn't peek. That's what you get for peeking.
I love the way they do
Well, thanks for nothing.
That's easy, simple as recreating a and always a nice little tribute. And ultimately, at the end, a little plug for Fatal Farm, right? This is the company that created these behind the scenes. It was, I think, just two guys. They created a bunch of these deals and just sort of put them out there, and then went on to go and make some of the craziest TV commercials that we've seen. He did like the Old Spice Terry Crews commercials and stuff like that. Okay, I want to play one more. Lasagna Cat. Hang on a second. Let me share this thing again. Video file. Okay, this one's a lot longer, but I think worth it. And okay, here's the point, is that they used a lot of unauthorized music. They did like music video tributes and stuff, and used music they had no rights to, so they could not monetize. So I will get demonetized if that music plays. So I have created a sort of a scrubbed version here, and we'll take a look at this. Note the date.
What do you think of my new frame, Garfield?
Ah! Oh, thank heavens. For a moment there, I thought it was a mirror.
Hi, it's good fun. It was a nice presentation of the script as well. And remember, 1984.
To hang a picture. That's all he wanted. I never expected anyone to get confused.
I thought it was a dog! I got a dog in the mirror!
The music, but
I got dog in the mirror.
I overdubbed the music that's coming up, but it's I can see it coming in the air tonight. Perfect. Shot remake this episode. I am like, man. We can do this. Yeah, this is not my music. Get out. With better music. Pretty quickly, this is a shot for shot. Every single shot you see here is from an episode of Miami Vice. I'm pretty sure that from that era. Insanely rooted off Michael Mann roads. Now we're back to it.
How much time we got?
If you know anything about production, like even this is kind of cheesy as it looks.
Picturing this.
Takes a lot of work.
Hello?
John,
Garfield?
I need to know something, John. When you asked me what I thought of your new frame, and I looked at it, and I saw a dog. That was Odie, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. You bet it was. Garfield? What's wrong?
I thought the picture frame was a mirror.
The part with the real audio is good, but this works so much better. It's so funny. Sounds like it. It's not.
Hey, hold up there, Tom. What? I forgot something?
Just takes a lot of care and a lot of love to make something like that. It's like shot for shot perfect as it is. That's why these guys, they just put their own money into it, put out all these videos, and went really viral at the time because of it. Oops, no, let me bring this back. Let me get rid of this guy. Okay, and then about halfway through, okay, they put out they put this one out. Let's watch this one.
years. Where has the time gone?
You need to show your face again, Garfield. What'll it take?
If you call a toll-free number, a web series about Garfield will return.
It's an answering machine! What do I say? What do I do?
State your name and the number of sexual partners you've had.
John Arbuckle, 2. Why do you need to know this?
Don't ask questions. It's just a survey. There isn't much time. Silence is the language of cowards. Dial the number for Garfield.
Wait, so this webisode mashup series that hasn't posted videos in nearly a decade suddenly has a 1-800 number and needs the names and sexual histories of random people from the internet? That's right. Why?
Because I hate Mondays.
Hey, you can call this number. To this day, you can still call that number. So you might have to call back, they said, because they're not equipped for high volume. Okay, so if you call this thing, you could call it and you can answer those questions and give those answers, okay? And that sounds wonderful, but then what did they do with that? So this was like 10 years after the original Lasagna Cat video, and let's share kind of what became of that. Now, I'm not going to share any more of the individual videos. I'm going to leave that to you because that's fun. And also, I don't want to get demonetized. So let me pull this. Yeah, here we go. But so they put up a whole new set of videos, and the new set of videos, right, had a much higher level of production values, as you could tell from that last one. Like, they got a lot of money, I think, doing ads after the first Lasagna Cat thing hit for them, and went and did a whole new series that were just to the next level. Great music parody videos is, I guess, what you'd have to call them, because all those names of musicians that you saw, that was for real. They used those, and it demonetized their videos. If you see the number of videos that these have millions of views. So they cut themselves off from, I couldn't tell you exactly how much money, but it ain't nothing. It's something. Certainly thousands of dollars, and probably more like tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe. Okay. And then finally, eventually put out, wait, I can't find it. Cat sex survey results. Yeah, it's in here somewhere for sure. Yeah, okay, the sex survey results. Here we go, on Lasagna Cat. Let's watch the real thing. And yeah, this is 4 hours and 40 minutes worth of, well, let's look a little bit. Okay, this may be inappropriate for some users. Let me tell you, it ain't the sex stories that are inappropriate about this thing. You're going to want to watch it. You're not going to necessarily want to watch all 4 hours. I didn't watch all of it. I watched a lot of it, though, because it's pretty goddamn funny. Now, let's just watch this. Beautiful production values in the Arbuckle home.
Who's there?
Hey, my name's Garrett Smith.
Garrett Smith. Who?
Hey, my name's Garrett Smith. And I've had exactly 0 set of partners.
And then they...
Who's there?
So they...
Jaden
do
Gitchell.
every one of these things.
Jaden
Wrap
Gitchell,
around and they
who?
incorporate the last picture.
It's Jaden Gitchell, and I've had 3 sexual partners.
Look into the last frame of that comic strip of the
Gideon
newspaper. Just a beautiful. It rotates between John
Gideon
and Garfield
Jones.
and Odie doing this.
Just one.
And I just noticed I didn't just notice, but you should notice the headline on the newspaper: telephone scam charged with gross privacy violation. Unfocused joke granted too many resources and time ultimately confuses. So this thing goes on
Who's
for literally
there?
4 hours.
Blake McCory?
Blake
40
McCory. Who?
Blake McCory? 0.
It goes on
Who's
and on.
there?
Some of these, though, are very
Jessica
long
Edwards.
and hilarious.
Jessica Edwards, who?
Jessica Edwards.
Who's there?
And the whole time, the time is changing. The clock on the wall is changing. The light is getting darker and darker.
What is this?
Weird shit.
Who's there?
Hey, this is Raymond again.
Raymond who?
Hey, this is Raymond again. I called twice before. Yeah, I sex with 2 women. Yeah, I also had a lot of sex in, sex chat rooms. Which, like, I haven't, like real sex. You can just, like, delete this, because just, like, no one's ever, like, asked me about, like, my sex life before. And, it's a big part of my life, and it's also been, like, immensely disturbing, like, what I've done in these sex chat rooms. So, I mean, this might feel rambly. I'm going to jump in. Like I say, you can delete this if you want, like, the name and number that's Raymond and 2. So it started, like, I'm just going to talk about the sex chat rooms. It started in the MSN chat rooms. I don't know if you remember those. Like, that was, like, a somewhat big website. This was, like, early 2000s, 90s, whatever. They were completely unregulated. You could create whatever room you wanted, talk about whatever you wanted. So it was just, like, a ton of, like, pedophiles, like, at the beginning. But a lot of, like, sex chat, and a lot of, like, role-play stuff. And I got, like, super into it. I think a lot of people I couldn't stop. I never did. I also, a lot of times, tend to be a girl, which was, like, you get, like, a super amount of attention. And it's, like, this really great feeling. That's why I got like that. And I would just jump into, like, whatever the guy was into. Like, if you want, like, a submissive girl, I would be like, yeah, because you put, like, whatever, like, action you're doing, like, an asterisk, but I'd be like, oh, like, I'm tied up. Or if they wanted, like, a girl, like, kick them in the nuts, like, I was, like, type, like, I'm, like, stomping on your nuts. I don't know want to talk about this stuff anymore. I don't know. Feels good to get it out, though. I'm going to hang up. Well, no. Yeah. There's just some people stand out. One girl, like, this is when I would be a guy. She would like to roleplay celebrities, but, like, female singer-songwriters, and then get, like, blackmail during, like, contract negotiations and having sex.
Okay, folks. So this is, as you can see, some people went off, and there's some amazing stuff in the whole 4 hours. And I'm just going to take you to where this thing ends up, okay? And I'm not going to show the entire thing because it's too much and it's too disturbing. But I'll just show you sort of, if you get to the end of this thing, eventually. Let's see.
But I just could beat this Margulies.
Eric Margulies, who?
Eric Margulies, 1. Jeff Miller, 3. Jan Michael Vincent,
Jan Michael Vincent who?
Jan Michael Vincent 3.
Who's that?
Joe?
Sorry, guys.
Jeff Miller. Vince
Brandon?
2000.
Joe?
Here we go. And then finally,
John Arbuckle 0.
okay, it's from this point on that it becomes ultra bizarre. And ultimately,
Garfield and I are very dissimilar in many ways. I look forward to Monday mornings, and I'm an optimist, whereas Garfield is a pessimist. By virtue of being a cat, he's not young or old or male or female either. For some reason, human failings are very endearing in an animal.
this has got 20 more minutes, guys. There's 20 more minutes to this. And where it's a little bit weird right now, I'm going to flip around a little bit to it. I want you to go and seek out sex survey results, Lasagna Cat, and watch this thing. Ultimately, a statement on the, I don't know. I think it's just a joke to say Garfield is like a creative abortion. And, but man,
Some days I wake up and go, I am funny today. You know, you're well rested, something, you're just a good mood, and you can write 2 or 3 or 4 gags that day. Or sometimes I'll take a week. In a week, I can write a month's worth of gags.
and this goes on. Like I said, there's 20 more minutes to this thing. And amazing visuals.
Garfield writes his own material. After all these years, I've created this kind of monster in my head, and I sit back, I put him in a situation, and then I watch him.
Okay. I'm not going to spoil this for you, folks.
The silhouettes or anything like that.
But you can see the kind of imagery that we're dealing with. And this is nothing compared to the final scene. And we're just going to leave this to your imagination, folks. I don't want to show because it's too early in the morning. I don't want to destroy anybody's breakfast. Let me just say, though, is it art? Yeah, it's wonderful. Lasagna Cat is a crazy, a transgressive artistic experiment. And I think utterly a gigantic success. It was certainly a financial success. It was certainly a financial success for Fatal Farm. It was amazing. I loved it. I hope you loved it too. Now let's do, what are we going to do? I want to check out some of the comics I've been reading this week. Yeah, it's that kind of show. It's kind of freeform. So let me see what I can do here. Can I bring up the $1 Million Comics cam in this thing? I'm pretty sure that I can. If we turn on, yeah, that, and then we, yeah, here we go. In amazing 3D. The $1 Million Comics cam. Let's see. Bring myself over here. Maybe we even turn some lights on. That's really the secret to making the $1 Million Comics cam look like the $1 million operation that it isn't. Okay. So what did I do? I went to the comic shop for the first time in about a month. Let me get rid of this danger room here. Okay, I went to the comic shop for the first time in like a month and picked up some good stuff. So here's all that I got collected. You'll see behind this all this Liberty Brigade jazz from my last live stream with Michael Finn, lawyer to the comic book stars. I recommend you go check that out, especially if you're interested in doing anything with public domain comic book characters. You should check out that stream and that video. If I was smart, I would link to it, but I am not, so I probably won't. Yeah, you want to see my ugly mug, right? Sure, why not? And okay, oops. Let's take a look at what's going on here. What did I get? Okay, after 1 month in the comic shop, what was waiting in my box? Well, I only subscribed to a couple of comics, so here's what I got. I got Usagi Yojimbo, both the regular series and the reprint series. This is all stretched out. We don't want that to be stretched out. Yeah, they look more like that. Okay, much better. Usagi Yojimbo, Lone Goat, and Kid. So this is a cool time. We could actually look at old Stan Sakai versus new Stan Sakai. Has he lost a step, gained a step, whatever? We'll take a look. Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman with art by P. Craig Russell, Dave Rubin, Colleen Duran, and Galen Showman. This has been on, I think, off of most people's radar, but just a fantastic comic. If you want to read good Thor comics, you want to read Norse mythology. Okay, I got the new Red Room. You know what? What's going on here? Are we picking up green screen action? Hang on a second. Sorry, folks. Sorry, folks. Yeah, that's way better. Way better. Way better. Okay. Here we go. All right, Red Room trigger warnings. Another gruesome entry in the Red Room saga. I think we'll look at this a little bit. Again, it's a little gross, but it's a good tie-in to the horror, the existential horror that we were just talking about. And Jim Rugg, Hulk Grand Design Monster. This is the first issue of 2. Jim came on this show to hype this thing. He goes on a lot of shows. He's pretty easy to get a hold of if you want to get him on your show. He's happy to not just be a guest, but to be a really enthusiastic, knowledgeable, fun guest too. One of my favorite people to interview ever. So we can take a quick look at this. I also picked this one up, but I haven't finished reading it yet. So maybe we take a look at Rogues too. And this is issue number 1 of this all new DC Black Label thingamabob. So what should we look at first? Let's look at Red Room, because we just went from horror to horror. So let's take a quick peek inside this one. Okay, and this issue presents the saga. Oops, sorry guys. Saga of the Rat Queen. Okay, you guys know what a Rat King is? Right? A Rat King is when it's this like rats that get their like tails entwined together, and so it's like an entity of multiple living organisms kind of tied together, and they're just like, it's a super vicious thing. So the idea behind the Red Room is that our sicko, the Decimator, has captured these like women, poor homeless women, as they're described. They're described as like, and nobody cares because they're poor. All the people watching are super rich and like spending tons of money to watch this happen. And anyway, this guy ties all their hair together and lets them fight it out to the death. Meanwhile, he's coming through and chopping off heads and chopping off pieces as they go until only one remains at the end. It's really gruesome. Yeah, till there's one victor remaining. Can we see that a little better? And Decimator declares her the victor, and then I'm not going to tell you what happens in the end. I don't want to spoil it for you. Good fun from my pal Ed Piskor, also been a guest on this show. Was a lot of fun to talk to. And but he's a little more reserved. He's a little more introvert, a lot more introverted than Jim for sure. Recommend checking that out. Okay, and check out his partner stuff. Let's look at Hulk Grand Design right now, so I can just wax poetic about this. I reached out to Jim and I was just like, Jim, I just read this thing and it's awesome. Congrats for putting out a wonderful looking book in a sea of garbage that's coming out right now. And I said, it looks like nothing that's ever come before, but yet looks like everything good that came before. And that's sort of the idea of Hulk Grand Design, right? Is he's gonna, let's see if we can get in here. Yeah, get in here a little better. Just retell the entire story, right? That's the idea of the Grand Design comics by, first there was X-Men Grand Design by Ed Piskor. Then there was Fantastic Four Grand Design with Tom Scioli, another guy we've had on the show. And now we've got Hulk Grand Design by Jim Rugg. And this attempts to synthesize like the entire history of the Hulk through one cartoonist's vision, right? One person who's doing the art and the writing. How's the audio now, guys? And you can check this thing out. He goes into all kinds of different styles, pastiches. As the years go on, the sort of style updates, not just for the comic book style of the Hulk, but because the Hulk became a pop culture phenomenon over time, right? With the TV shows and, of course, now the Avengers and movies and stuff. We're not up to that yet in this book, but we do get as far as like the release of the television series. I just love Jim's ultra clean lines on a lot of this stuff. I'm going to say his ink line is sumptuous, if I may drop that superlative. You know, and this is not necessarily what your standard Hulk fan is looking for right now. You know, they're looking for, you know, a lot of fighting. There's plenty of fighting in this, but they're looking for more fighting and more muscles on top of muscles, right? We want like Dan Shaheen style No, we want like ultra defined anatomy. That's not really Jim's thing, but he can do it when he needs to. And that's what's wonderful about this is Jim is a little bit different than those other two creators that I mentioned, Scioli and Rugg, in that those guys, you can instantaneously recognize their styles for what it is, where Jim is one of those guys who can draw in any style that he wants, frankly. And he has such an eye. And not only that, he can tell you why, right? And can tell you what era he's coming from, which artist he's channeling, and what he chose to take from that artist and what he didn't necessarily chose to take from the artist. So you're going to love this thing. I think if you love the Hulk, you get to see a lot of the great moments in the early part of the Hulk's career. And this goes all the way up through, where does it go? Through the end of Secret Wars, I think. And then the second volume will pick up from there. And we get to see the rampaging Hulk era in the 70s. Okay, this was one of my favorite pages. The Marvel's TV sensation. This was all over the Hulk comics at that time, right? And just what a great image. I love that. It's that closed eye. I keep doing that. Yeah, I love that closed eye on the Hulk. That's always something. It's just like, and all the Brian Hitch used to do that quite a bit in the Ultimates with his Hulk. I always thought that was cool. All right. They go into Doc Sampson, the origins of Doc Sampson and stuff in this, which is he's one of the cooler Hulk side characters. And I got to thinking about why of all the movies, like the solo Hulk movie never quite worked, is because they never really brought in any of the great side characters. They had Betty Brant and they do Thunderbolt Ross, but you need to get into some of the weirdos surrounding the Incredible Hulk. And of course, they never used Rick Jones. We still have not seen Rick Jones in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I think that's a crime. Do you? Should we start a newsletter? Let's complain right now. Let's get our angry faces on, and let's make a YouTube video about why social justice warriors removed Bucky. No, we're not going to do that. We can talk about the woke ideology of the new Marvel. No, we're not going to do that. That's one thing I'm not going to do on this channel, okay? And I don't mind if you do or like that stuff. I think we got enough of it. Great stuff. I love this. Daredevil battles the Hulk. And they got a nice action post. And then like aftermath of Doctor's hopeful for DD. That's, of course, how else is a battle between the Hulk and Daredevil going to go? We get all the way into the origin of the Savage She-Hulk. I think this is a great, beautiful Shulky picture here. And Jim will even throw in like little cultural notes, like the actual cover images and some like, there's some quotes and stuff later on. And we get all the way up through, Hulk leaving Earth, coming back, being a hero, having Banner's mind, not having Banner's mind, being a savage, wandering. He's on Earth. He's in outer space. He's in another dimension. That's where we end, is sort of the Doctor Strange banishment of the Hulk, which led to some really great stories in the Hulk comics, I think in the Mantlo era. Got lots of powerful images of the Incredible Hulk in this thing. So if that's your deal, go pick up Grand Design Monster. We'll talk about number 2 maybe when it comes out. Okay, let's look at another number 2, Norse mythology number 2. Okay, this is the best Thor comic, maybe one of the best of all. Is the best of all time. It's so good. It's really not a Thor comic so much as it's a Norse mythology comic, which suits me just fine. These stories are so good, and they're just full of like action and adventure and comedy, lots of humorous moments. It doesn't take itself super seriously. It's not, they don't speak in that Shakespearean manner that Stan Lee and Marvel had them do. And then we've got art by just some of the greats. We've got P. Craig Russell in here. Look at this interpretation of Odin. It's really good. Art in this thing is fantastic. We've got pages by Colleen Duran as well, who I think is one of the greatest working artists in comics today. Full stop. Telling the story, and then this is telling the story of like Balder, one of the sort of, demigods, lesser known in the comics and stuff, but like, well, I mean, Balder's in the comics, Balder the Brave. And but you don't hear a lot about his backstory and how he's sort of like the Achilles of the Norse gods, in that he is granted invulnerability by his mother, who goes around and just asks everything in nature not to hurt her son. And says, like, to the rocks, don't hurt him. To the fire, don't hurt him. To wood, don't hurt him. Right? So he's totally invulnerable, and he proves this by going back and letting people smash rocks on him and stuff. But then, sure enough, Loki gets involved. The one thing she forgot or neglected to ask for protection from was mistletoe. And she's like, the mistletoe, it's too weak to do anything. I'm just not even going to bother asking it. And so he's vulnerable to mistletoe. This is like Achilles in his Achilles heel, like the one thing, because his mother dipped him in the river Styx by the ankle, right, and left that vulnerable spot. Never made sense to me why she didn't just double dip and dip the heel, but like this is mythological logic that we're talking about, mythological stuff. So it doesn't have to make total sense. And then Balder, of course, has a weakness to mistletoe. And Loki finds out about this. And sure enough, he's at the mistletoe tree. And he's like, yeah, mistletoe's poisonous, but I can do better. I want to make sure to hurt him and hurt the other gods. Loki is malicious and evil constantly, but he's always getting his comeuppance. These Norse myths really were very like old school comic like, in the sense that the villains, Loki and usually the frost giants or whatever, are constantly getting defeated, punished at the end of the story, and everybody has a big laugh. But then they're back in the next story, right? Because you need that to drive the story forward. El Crudo only knows Baldur's Gate, which I don't even know. I've heard of that. No. And Drunken Sailor says, Colleen Duran has her own YouTube channel and Patreon, by the way. Uploads every once in a while. I know. Yeah, but yeah, beautiful artwork. I've reached out to her. I have not even got a response. I really just would love to talk to her. I sing her praises all the time. I review her comics all the time. Paul Levitz said she's not like the live stream interview type. So I think that's cool. You don't have to be. It's all right with me. All right, let's move on to Usagi Yojimbo. And I got to get out of here pretty soon. Okay, so this is great. I got 2 issues of Usagi. I waited I think it must have been like 5 weeks or something, or 6 weeks maybe since I've been there, because there were 2 issues of Usagi and Usagi, we call it Usagi Tales, whatever. They reprint the old stuff in miniseries. So this is the Lone Goat and Kid, really early Usagi stuff that they're now colorizing and reprinting, which is brilliant because then they can recollect it in color volumes. And the lack of color was one of the small things that makes Usagi kind of a tough sell sometimes for children. Let's talk. I've said this before, but Usagi is one of my favorite books of all time for many reasons. Okay, one, you don't get tired of it. Any single issue of Usagi that you pick up, you will read and you will get a tale beginning to end that you will enjoy. Sometimes it's part of a longer serialized story, but even then, care is taken to make sure that each issue is sort of like readable. And boy, is it ever readable. And in this issue, we've accumulated so much lore in Usagi land that we get the returning villains again. The undying Jay. Is he crazy? Does he really hear from the gods? Does he have supernatural powers? He seems to. One of the really cool recurring Usagi villains, and they don't cross paths in this issue. Literally don't cross paths because they take separate paths. But then Usagi's cousin, this new character who they've brought in, who I don't know if they're going to do a changing of the guard. I don't know if they're going to do an Usagi trains a new guy and eventually retires. I have the feeling Stan is going to bring the entire saga to a wrap up. But just look at this, just looking through the pages, just looking at it from far away like this, like how readable this looks, how inviting to read, how fun to read. Every issue is packed with like real life historical facts about feudal Japan and samurai and Bushido code and stuff, but also killer action. Like you don't get an episode of Usagi Yojimbo without multiple people being stabbed to death. And nothing would give me more pleasure than explaining that to parents. When I would recommend this, when I had a comic book store and I would recommend it, they'd be like, I'd give them the historical angle. I'd give them the beautiful artwork, the storytelling, the authenticity, the funny animals they're in. And they're like, is it violent? And I would say, yes, extremely violent, right? There's no other way to put it. A lot of people get killed, stabbed to death and sliced to death. But it's told in a family-friendly way. I mean, people really did get sliced up with swords, and kids love that. They love to pretend with that stuff. And this is at least realistic and not like, there's real stakes to the violence. It's not like they get a laser blaster and nobody ever gets hurt and no, people are dying. Beautiful part of these stories. The current saga ongoing is really good, but what I wanted to do is kind of contrast the art for a second with the stuff from Lone Goat and Kid, which is much older. I'm going to say 30 years older. Yeah, this saga has been going on for 30 years. So it's a little hard to see maybe for me. No, it might be good. If you got a big enough screen, you'll be able to see this. And we get this story opens with a really nice historical montage of like kite making. So like any good story we learn, or like any good Usagi tale, we get a nice history lesson, pretty much just told in captions, but really readable with great, simple, but explicit drawings that tell the tale. So good. And you can see his style back then was a little more cartoony, definitely a lot more rendered. Since this was in black and white too, pre-color, you know, all your shading and stuff, which they do a lot in the coloring now, he would have to do in the inking. And so probably a lot more work went into each individual figure. But I think it's also just that his style evolved into a looser style over time, but it lost none of its impact. In fact, if anything, his sword fights and his action scenes and his storytelling got much better. Right? This is what makes Sakai such a master. And these are just, it's hard to explain the joy of an truly all ages reading experience. This is something anybody can read. You can read it with your kids. You could read it by yourself. You could have your kid read it. And everybody's coming away from this wanting more Usagi Yojimbo. Speaking of wanting more Usagi Yojimbo and related stuff, I really tried to talk to Stan Sakai. He's one of those guys that I got so close. It's so disappointing. He agreed to an interview and then pulled out because the Netflix deal came through. So I'm hoping now that like the Netflix show, Samurai Rabbit or whatever they're calling it, is in production, is done. Maybe he'll have some time and be willing to come talk to me. I can't hold it against him. I mean, it's really difficult to get guests at all. That's one of the hardest things. Oops, that's one of the hardest things about this show. Let me get it. Well, I forgot about this, folks. This is one of the hardest things to do is to get guests for this show, right? Because they can't bear to sit through the inordinately long sci-fi tunnel montage that I accidentally just threw up. Sorry about that. Turn that off. One of the hardest things is getting guests for the show. It's like really hard to schedule them at the right time and make it happen. And then once I do get guests, you know, sometimes I put my foot in my mouth and I've asked dumb questions or uncomfortable questions, or even, you know, delve too hard into areas that I probably shouldn't have. And when I look back at them, I go, I didn't really get anything great out of asking some of those questions. So anyway, it's made me switch up my ideas about what kind of show I want to do. Oh yeah, hey, I've heard of Danger Room. I've heard of a shop called Danger Room. I remember that in Olympia. Yeah, that's right. Anyway, I'm going to change up this show. That's the whole point of what this is all about. This Danger Room thing is all about fun, right? It's all about me having fun and just doing streaming the way I want to do, putting more graphics and more videos. Drunken Sailor, so that's okay as long as Bissett keeps returning. We good. Steve will be back for sure. I've talked to him about a couple concepts I want to try with him, and he was enough fun, and he had enough fun that I'm sure that we'll see Steve Bissett again. I'm just not going to do interview of the week every week anymore on Thursdays. I guess that's the big, amazing apocalyptic change that's happening. I'm not going to do that. And I think that has to be okay. I'm going to keep trying this on Mondays Tuesdays rather. Tuesdays is going to be this crazy stream, the Danger Room stream, where I'm just going to talk about comics that I read and goofy and whatever. Thursday is going to be a little more structured, I think, usually with a topic or a subject in mind, I think, and often a guest. Next week, I've got Craig Yo from Yo Books coming in. He's awesome this week, rather, on Thursday. And then on Friday, I'm going to continue doing Serious Star Trek with Larry and John Price. And that's where I just get to go kind of sci-fi nuts and do stuff that's not necessarily comic book related. So anyway, hey, thank you guys for checking out Danger Room today. I hope that you keep sticking around. I really hope this becomes something that we can all watch and enjoy together. One thing that I'm going to do probably next week for sure is we're going to watch some cartoons, more cartoons together. We'll watch some public domain stuff like the Fleischer Supermans, like some of the Warner Brothers stuff that went into public domain, and a bunch of other great stuff. That's going to be fun coming up pretty soon. And we'll see you next time. See ya.